All right, okay. You guys are welcome to Next College, and this is the second class for our introduction to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Our 1 month was free class. Okay, and in this class, we'll just start sharing our screen, then we'll move into what we have for today. Okay, so give me some time to share my screen. All right, the screen is on. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's good. Okay, so I'm just going to drag and drop my folder here. All right, then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to minimize this so I can be able to see both our browser, okay, our browser and our code. Very, very important for us. Okay, minimize this. I have to open up this, click twice. All right. Okay, Sam, do you have any question?
Sorry, I can't be access your screen.
You can't see my screen.
I can't see.
Cannot see my screen.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, I think it's your network sense. Its network is always bad concerning sharing screen. I don't know what is wrong. All right, this is what we had in our last class. And basically, we're able to learn about HTML elements and tag. And we discuss about H1, P tag, and some other tag that helps in formatting what our text. Okay, all those things we are discussing in last class, and you can easily access them in our YouTube account. Okay, and in today's class, we are still going to proceed with this particular tags. Every time I HTML, mostly it's usually tags everywhere. Okay, and all those tags are easy for you to remember them. They are very, very easy to remember. Okay, some you are going to forget them because some of them they are not used often. Okay, they are not used often. But all these tags, some of them are very different from others. Okay, because based on what we learned in the last class, we are able to understand that HTML elements always involve opening tag, some content, then a closing tag. Some of these elements does not really require a closing tag for them to implement. So that means some of them just have what? One tag. They don't have a closing tag, they don't have a content in between. It just what? It just opening tag or self-closing tag. So example of those kind of tag is let me say line break or horizontal what? Line. So if you want to just draw a line horizontally, we call it what? Horizontal what? Line. So how can I implement horizontal line? Very simple. I just come here, after this is my H1, and I pass HR, then close it, then I can now save. So once I save, you can see what I have here. It's just one tag. And this is what we call self-closing tag. So we have the opening tag, and it's also what is self-closing tag because there is a slash here. This means that this particular tag is actually your self-closing tag and does not require a content. For this our H1, we have a content called welcome to UNN. So that is the content. And this is the opening tag, and this is what the closing tag. Now, if I refresh this, so you can see what I have here. You can see a horizontal line here. Let me zoom it a little bit. So you can see a horizontal line here. So if you want to actually create this other line, you just use this HR. Very simple, nothing much. We have a lot of them that behave this way. So when you come to tags or HTML element, we have set closing tag and we have normal HTML elements totally, which has what? Opening tag, a content, and a closing tag. So very, very important. You may forget this, but you still remember it over time. Once you start practicing, all right, you keep on remembering all those things. Now, we are going to also kind of divide most of all these tags into two. Okay? We are going to divide them into what? Into two. All the HTML tags we have or elements we have, we are going to divide them into two. The first one is what we call what? Block element. And the second one is what we call inline element. Repeating myself, all the tags we have in HTML fall into what? Into two categories. The first one is what we call the block elements. The second one is what we call what? The inline elements. You're gonna ask yourself, what is even a block element and what is even an inline element? They are very simple to understand. I am going to see them. Now, a block element are those elements that takes the whole width of what? The parents. Okay, let me expand this. Look at this particular thing. This H1 started with what? Started from new line. Okay, even if I start, okay, I want to create another H1. Okay, I come here, I say another H1, and I'll say this is another one. Okay, and save this. So you can see it's starting from what? From a new line. But now imagine that there are some elements or some tags that you can use within what? Same line. Like how can I be able to create an element that will not be in a new line and it's just going to be within the same line? And we saw some of these things in our last class. When I use span, I use emphasis for also what? Create some formatting in our text. Okay, and in that last class, I use emphasis. Okay, and in our emphasis, I kind of use some part of our text as very, very important area, and I pass EM as emphasis. Okay, so I can now save this. Now see what happened. If I refresh this, so you can now see that this is now italic. This another is now what? Is italic, which means that it's actually emphasizing what? Something. But the funny thing is, if like I use paragraph or I use H1, it's no longer going to be here. It's going to be pushed down to start with what? To start from a new line. So once you use any tag and it does not push that particular text or that particular element to start from a new line, all right? So that means that element is an inline element because it can stay within that particular line. You don't need to start from what? Start from a new line. Now, see example, another example here. So I passed a p tag. I can now say this is a paragraph. Okay, this is a paragraph. Okay, I can easily refresh this. This is a paragraph. It's showing perfectly fine, right? Then now imagine I can now come here and insert another paragraph here. I can say this is another one. Then I can now save this. Now, if you take a look at my VS Code already, you can see a red line here. Okay, showing that what I did is not correct too, but it's not going to prevent me from executing my code. But it's showing me that what I'm doing here is actually what is actually wrong. That this paragraph is supposed to be what? A block element. Can't be inside under what? Under paragraph. So if I refresh this now, so you can see what's happened there. What's happened there is very simple. It still forced me, okay, to start from what? A new line. It still forced me to start from what? A new line, which means that this particular p tag is a what? Is a block element, because it will always force you to start from what? A new line. Then inline element, you don't need to force you to start from a new what? A new line. Now, example now, if I change this p tag I have here to, let me say, another inline element, which you call what? Span. Okay, and I save it. So you can see the error is no longer here, because this span is also what? An inline what? Element. Then if I refresh this, so you can now say everything is seen within the line. So when you come to HTML, we have block elements and we have what? We have inline elements. They are many, and we are going to cover some of them. So we are going to start with the block elements. So I'm going to call them, then we actually use them in the code. They also move to inline elements. I also call them, then also use them in our code. Can you guys see me? All right, okay. So is there any question concerning the basic explanation of inline element and block element? Okay, so that means we can proceed to what we have next. Okay, so let's talk about some other block element that we have not even used. We have used ordered list, we have used unordered list, we have used li, which is this item, we have used h1 to h6 p tag. Okay, now you saw span, which we are still going to talk about over the time. Okay, then you saw emphasis, which is something I've discussed before as our text formatters. Okay, then what I'm going to do is for us to now take a look at some other words, some other block elements. All right, so remove this. So another block element we have is address. Okay, it's address. This is rarely used most of the time. Okay, because it's not compulsory for you to actually, most of the time, it's not compulsory for you to say, oh, you want to use address, you want to use h1, you want to use a particular tag. But for you to be a good programmer or someone that knows what he's doing, that is why you are here to learn all these tags. So you start implementing them in your code over the time. Very, very, very important. Okay, so we have a block element called what? Called address. So this is mostly used when you want to actually create an address in a web page. And I'll say address. Okay, and I'll say Lagos Ikorodu. Okay, and save this, then refresh. So you can see that it's actually italic by nature. You can see the font size and the style, which is going to discuss about some attributes and how we can be able to create some styling in our text over the time. So it's different from normal paragraph or normal H1 or H2 or the H series. So this is what address. So any place you want to actually create an address in your web page, you can make use of this address as a tag. Okay, very, very important. So this particular address is what is a block element. So any place you are using it is meant to start from a new line. Okay, you don't put it inside inside a paragraph. So it's going to start from a new line. So don't make this mistake. So we have block element, we have inline element. If you are placing a block element inside another block element, it's not going to work. Especially all this paragraph and address and thereabouts. Putting a paragraph inside another paragraph or H1 inside another H1. So it will not work because it does not actually make sense. Okay, so this is one of the block elements we have, which is what? Address. Okay, the next one is HR, which we have used already. This one, we have used it already. Okay, so it's always going to start from the end to another end. So that is what HR. The next one is what you call section. Now, when you come to building application, there are some parts that you don't really see as within your eye. Okay, and those things are also very, very important to create our layout, to partition things the way it's meant to be. Now, let me just go to Next College website and let's check something. So I can just go to Next College. Now, when you come to Next College website, you can see some things here. So things are being divided somehow, even though you don't really see them. The only thing you can see all these text, and thereabouts, input, but there are some things that are sectioning it from different angle. Okay, this one should be here, this one should be here, this one should be here. Okay, and all those things are what are block elements. Almost all of them, or even all of them, are block elements. Okay, now if I just go down a little bit, you can see that the color here, what we have here is Napa. Okay, and it's different from what we have here. Then even if I say, okay, let me go to this About Us page, then go down a little bit, so you can see what's happening here. So this particular person is in a particular section. Why this one is in a particular what section? This particular text is in a different what section. Even if you just scroll down again, you can see we have 3 sections here. So this is one section, and one section. Okay, very, very important. This is one section, and another section. So most of the time when we are building websites, we partition all these things based on sections. Okay, so everything is also what based on what sections, and those sections are basically what they are basically block elements. Now everything you are seeing here is just line, okay, and this text, but inside this there are something called div, we call section, and thereabout before you start seeing all these things. So without those things, you'll not be able to arrange your layout or your website for it to look beautiful the way it's meant to be. Okay, so also using this opportunity, if you're not registered in Next College, you can actually do that once we are done with this class. Try and register at nextcollege.dev. Okay, so I can just minimize this part so you can continue from where we stopped. Okay, now let's talk about this section. Here I can now say I have a section. Okay, so you can see you have a tag called what section, because now I want to partition things different area. So section, and if I save it, I'm not going to see anything. So this section actually is a block, what is a block element. It helps a particular text to start from the starting point. So it's not always used inside a text. So that means it's a block element. But now there is something that used to confuse people. Okay, when I talk about inline element, as I mentioned, the inline element does not need to start from the beginning. They just stick within the paragraph they are existing, and they are used mostly in paragraphs. Okay, most of the time they are used in paragraphs. But all these block elements, they can still live inside another block element, but they are still going to start from the beginning part. Now, looking at our section now, this section is going to help us to segment our layout, what we are actually trying to build. Okay, so instead of just putting everything down, just imagine you have a site. The first part is going to talk about shoes. The next part talk about cars. Next part talk about bottled water. Okay, how do you actually segment them section by section if you don't know about section? Okay, now I can answer this is the first section. And this first I can now say, okay, all the shoes is going to be in this section. Okay, and I can decide to wrap it in a paragraph. So I can just pass p tag. Okay, save. So all shoes. Then I can just refresh. Good that fine. You still have everything like showing normal, the way it's meant to be in the website. Okay, yeah, I can now come down here and now add another section. Okay, then p tag and say all cars. Then save this. Come up here, refresh this. You see have what? You see have all cars. But it's only the programmer that knows what is happening under the hood. That okay, this part is a section. Okay, and this part is another section. So you being a programmer, once you come to that particular website, you can easily look at what the person is doing. Then you can easily infer, okay, that this actually is meant to be a section. This side is meant to be what? A section. This side is meant to also be a section. So very, very important. So we have a tag called what? Called section. Okay, it's used for what? To section or partition our main our main page. Can you guys hear me? All right. So is there any question concerning a section, inline element, block element? Any question at all? You can speak up.
Good evening. All.
Yeah, good evening.
Please, I have a question. In this section now, that we have all the shoes and all cars, is it possible to have the paragraph, like the two paragraphs inside one section? I don't know if you understand my question.
Yes, I understand your question perfectly fine. Okay, now
Is it possible?
yes, it's possible. Okay, a section does not need to have only one element, one content inside it. Okay, so you can have multiple content inside an element. Just like I used the example here for next college.dev. All right. Now I told you that this particular thing I see here is a section. This whole thing is a section. This whole thing is a section. Okay. This one also is a section. This one is also what? It's also a section. Then inside this first section, we have what? We have page 3 tag here. Okay. We have what? We have p tag here. Then we have another thing here that you can see for you to see more. Okay. Then we have what? We have image tag here. So just one section having all these things. So the thing you need to understand that section is just used to what? To partition the site. You are the one that is using the site. When you come to your HTML page, you can easily look at what you are doing. Okay, this is a particular section. Okay, I can now start working on it. So we are among those that built this particular site. So if I'm to come back to this, I can just say, okay, this is the first section. I can start working on it. This is the second section. I can start working on it. This is the third section. So once I just come to my code, I know that everything is based on what? Is based on section. All right, so you can have multiple p tag, even under section, inside section. All right, and many other things inside what? Inside section. But the main thing there is that section is just going to help you to partition your what? Your application. Now, we say that you have section inside section, it's still possible. Because now, just imagine maybe this particular line from here to here is one section. Then inside this one section, I start having 3 sections. 1, 2, 3. So you can have multiple elements inside inside a particular section. The same way you can have multiple formatter inside a paragraph. So you can have emphasis inside paragraph. You can have a span inside paragraph. The same thing also happens when you come to When you come to section. So this answer your question. All right. Any other question, please? Okay. So that is for section. Then move ahead to talk about what? Talk about article. Now, when you come to most websites, there are blog sites. Okay. So there is a tag we call article. So if you want to write an article, so you have to use that tag called article. The reason why we are teaching all these tags is for you to know that this is actually existing. Even though nobody is going to force you to implement it to the way it's meant to be. Okay, but you that is learning, you are meant to understand that you have to know how to implement what we call semantic HTML. Okay, that's what we call it. Using the right tag in the right place. Okay, so most of all these blog sites that are used to write articles. So the tag they are meant to use is article. Even though they may still go ahead and make use of p tag or anyone they like or they prefer, there is no problem. It means that their code is actually working and they are comfortable with it. All right. That means I can just come here and create what? An article. So article. Okay, I can just say this is my first article. So this article is meant to be treated like what? Like a paragraph. All right. But most of the time, see, there's no difference between the article and even normal paragraph. But just for you to know that this is meant to be what? An article. So if I'm reading your code as your co-programmer, I'm going through your code. Okay, I can see that this guy actually knows what he's doing. He's a great what? Front-end developer. Because he's using all these tags in the right way, semantically, in the right way. But if we are just coming up or you don't care about all these tags, you see where you're meant to put article, you're putting p tag, see where you are meant to put a section, you just leave it that way and thereabout. It don't actually make sense. Okay, so that is why you have to learn all these tags, most of them. So you start implementing them the way it's meant to be. Okay, then we move down to another one, which you call what? Which you call main. Okay, this main and section is almost like the same thing. Okay, they're almost like the same thing. But most of the time, we use this main immediately what? Immediately after our body. And sections can be inside what? Can be inside main. So that means a main part can hold multiple what? Multiple sections. Now just imagine you have let me just expand this. You have a web page this way, all right? And this first part, okay, you can regard it as the main part, or let me say the landing page for this one, this particular link. Okay, or you can come down here, another part is here also. You can come down here, another part is here also. You can come down here, another part is there. Okay, so you can make use of this main. You can make use of this main. Please carry out the question. I can't see the whole text. So you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Or someone can help me and read it, please. Can you guys tell me, please?
So which text is that one?
I think there is someone that dropped a question in the chat box.
Okay.
Oh.
I think God's power said,
He said,
what
programming language is this?
I couldn't hear you, please. There was background noise. What program?
Okay.
So what programming languages we are writing with, and how do we identify the different languages? Also, what are the differences?
Okay. What we are using now is not the programming language. Okay. We call this structural what? Language. Okay. The programming language we are going to use is JavaScript. Okay. That is the first language we are actually going to learn. And that should be coming up in next 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. So what you're also learning now is what a structural language, which we call HTML, hypertext markup language. So it's not a programming language, even though people used to misunderstand it. It's not what a programming language. It doesn't have functions inside it, loops and some other things. And all these things are things you are going to learn when you come to what JavaScript. So this is just basically a structural what language. And that is why you are just looking for section, main, just to put structure, okay, in different part of our website. Okay, it's not a programming language. Okay. So for the person that asked the question, it's not a programming language. All right, you're welcome, God's power. Okay. Now, most of the time, you use this main and section interchangeably. Okay. Like I said, that all these things are basically what just for semantic purpose. It's not going to break your HTML if you use them. Just when I come to your site, I can easily read what is talking about. Oh, this part is section. Oh, this part is paragraph. Oh, this part is this. Okay, I can easily understand. So main and section, most of the time I use what interchangeably. But most of the time, if like you are building an application, especially in React, everything is wrapped under what? Under main what? Main tag. Okay. After the body, then you are going to see what? You are going to see main. And during that time, you are going to even learn more about this main and how we can use it often in our application. So how do you use main? I just pass main. Not the same thing as section or article. Okay, so this main can contain what? Multiple what? Sections. Okay, so inside this section, so I can just pass a paragraph saying this is my section. Let's see. And minimize this again. Okay, then refresh. So you can see there is no difference. So once you have seen it in the web page, you will not even understand what is even going on. Okay, till you see the code. So once you see the code, you can now say, ah, wow, I think this is where it actually hits me. Okay, so the web page should not confuse you. Don't bother about the web page. Okay, the main thing is for you to understand what we are actually doing here. And all these things is going to make sense more when in our next week class, when we start talking about CSS, okay, that is where you're going to see the reason why we are actually making use of this section, this main, to actually partition our site. So it's just going to help us to make sure everything is partitioned the way it's meant to what, the way it's meant to be. Okay. So this section can be inside what? Inside this main. And this paragraph cannot be inside what? This section. So you can see how the structure is going or the hierarchy is going. Because this paragraph basically can now hold other inline what? Inline elements. Why this section and main are basically what? They are block what? They are block elements. Okay, is there any question concerning main and section? All right, okay. And then the next one we have is nav. Okay, that is navbar. You must have seen navbar in almost all the sites that you visit. You are going to see what you are going to see navbar. Okay, so even coming to next college here, we also have what we have navbar. So this is what we call the navbar. Okay, that's those things you should see on top of every website. So I can be able to navigate to different different area of the site. Just from the name navbar, navigation bar. Okay, so that is the navbar. This is the navbar for next college. So you can be able to move from one place to another, and that is why it's called what? It's called navbar. Now, when you want to create this particular navbar, you make use of what? Nav. So you don't make use of section, even though you make use of section, it's not going to break, or the code will not break, or it's not going to have any issue. But the best thing or the best tag which we use to show that this actually is a nav bar is to make use of what? Nav. Okay, so that means if I minimize this, and in my HTML, I want to create a nav bar, I can just come here and pass what? Nav. Okay, that means I want to create something like this on top. Okay, so I can just pass it, then start providing my logo, all these text, and all these important things. All right, now I can just say logo. You're not expecting it to look beautiful like that nav bar yet, because there is no CSS and there is no styling there. So everything is just going to be what? Like normal text. Don't worry. You're going to see all the magic time. Okay, so all these things is just for you to learn about the tags, that they are actually what? They are actually existing. So you have what? You have logo. Okay, and this is our logo in this instance. And this is what? Nav. So anytime I want to implement a nav bar, you make use of what? This tag called nav. Okay, so very, very simple. We're just learning all the tags. There is no styling yet. Then the next one, we move to what? We move to footer. Also, you must have also seen some things in the website. If you go down the website, you see something like this, almost in all the page. And this is what we call what? The footer. The footer is always at the bottom part, while the nav is always at the top. Okay, so if you want to create something that is going to always be at the bottom of the site, okay, so you call it what? You call it footer. Why you want to create something at the topmost part of the site, you call it what? You call it nav bar or nav. All right. So anytime you want to create an element which is going to be at the bottom part of the site, we call it what? We call it footer. Okay. So I can just minimize this. Then here, pass my tag, which we call what? Footer. Okay. So I can just write anything, maybe footer. Okay. Save this. Then come to the site. If I refresh this, there is no what? There is no much difference yet. Okay. Basically because we have not started what? Styling. So just be picturing all the tags and be understanding why we are going to use them in the future. Okay, that is why everyone used to say that HTML is not the problem, that JavaScript that is the problem. Everything here is very easy. Okay, and the reason why we are here, even when we reach to JavaScript, we still make it easy for you, just the same way as HTML. The only thing I can encourage you to do is just keep on practicing. Once you are done with our class, the following day, please watch the YouTube video for those that have not paid. But if you have paid already, you can already access the dashboard. You can see all the classes we have had so far, which is just one class. Okay, you can easily access them from your dashboard. All right. Then we move on to the next one. So the next one is div, which is what? Division. So this div is mostly used inside section, because section can be very big. Then inside section, you still want to divide those sections into different portions. And that is where division come into play, which is what we call div. Okay, so div is just a tag like this, which means division. So you want to divide all those sections or main into what? Into different partition. Or sometimes you can still use div inside div. So you want to divide another div. Okay, so all these things are what? Are block what? Elements. Okay, so div is a block element. Footer, nav, main, article, section, p tab, which is paragraph, h1 to h6. All these things are what? Are block elements. And they're not really hard to remember. So once you just keep on practicing, all these things becomes easier for you. Okay, so is there any question concerning our div? All right, okay. Then the next one we are going to take a look at now is the, okay, let's just look at the inline, some of the inline elements. Okay, then from there, we now discuss the remaining part of what our block elements, something like image and video. So that one may take a lot of time from us. So we are going to talk about some other inline elements, apart from all those formatters we have discussed, what we have discussed before. Okay, but those ones are very much what they are very much easy for us to remember. Can you guys see any?
Yes, we
Is there any
can.
question so far? All right, okay. Now, let's talk about some inline elements. Now, these inline elements, like I said before, they don't need to start from new line. Okay, they can still exist what within, right, within the parent, the parent they are found in, which is most of the time within the paragraph. Okay, and even if you decide to just put them outside the paragraph, they are not going to consume the whole width of what the screen. Okay, they won't consume the whole width of what the screen. When we start making use of CSS, we are going to understand all this imperfectly fine. But in the meantime, just understand that when you use an inline element, they can stay within the paragraph, or even if you use them without a paragraph, they can stay on their own, but they are not going to consume the whole width. Now, this div I put here is consuming the whole width, but you can't see it with your eye, all right? Because there is no style to show that, this is actually consuming the whole width. This footer, the same thing, navbar, the same thing, they are consuming the whole width. When I say width, I mean they start from here to here, to the end here. So that is the width of what our screen, okay? They will always consume the whole width. And that is what make them what? Make them block elements. But inline elements, even if you say, okay, don't want to use them within a paragraph, I just want to put them on their own like this, they will still not consume the whole width. They will just take that space they are meant to take, and that is just it. They can't consume the whole width compared to what footer, the section is actually doing. Okay? In our next week class, we are going to see all these things in play. Okay, let's talk about the first inline element, which we have used is span. We have used span already, okay, which we use often within a paragraph, just to section it and style it. All right. So if I pass a paragraph here, okay, I can say do not touch this. Okay. I can also say, okay, it is dangerous. Okay, it is dangerous. Okay, do not touch this, is dangerous. Now, most of us will think about danger as red. Okay, so if you want to warn someone that this is actually dangerous, then, and you don't want to style the whole paragraph, because now this paragraph now, if I want to give it color, okay, I'm meant to give color to a particular section, which is what only this word dangerous. I want to make dangerous to be red instead of everything to be red. Okay, and that is when we now use span, because you just want to select a particular word, part of the paragraph, span, and put dangerous here. I can save this. But if I refresh this, you don't see any difference. Because the reason being that we have not added any attributes to actually help us to achieve this. Okay, and this actually, I'm just going to digress a little bit to attributes before we continue with what we see have with our inline elements. So you can be able to see the power of this particular word, span, and why we use them. Now, what are attributes? Attributes are some things that we use in our opening tag just to influence what our element or the content inside that particular word, that particular tag or that particular HTML element. Okay. Now, some of them can be for you to give color or style. So that means there is an attribute called style attribute that you can use to style a particular thing. And all this will be discussed very, very well from your next week class. We're just going to add one style attribute or one attribute called style. So you can be able to appreciate what I'm trying to do here. Now I can say I want to add an attribute here. Let me say in this P tag, I want to add a style to it. I just say style. You can see what I did here. So within the opening tag of this our P tag, I'll just give a space, then password style. Click on enter. So I can now see some options. So I will just click on color, just choose color. Okay. Then I want it to be to be red. Then I now save. So this is basically that CSS we have been talking about. All right, and you're not going to use it in this class very, very well yet, because I'm not focusing on the structure, not on the beauty. For the meantime, beauty lies in the beholder eye of what they even call it. Okay, so I can just refresh this. So let's see what happened here. So we have everything in the red. So everything is red now, but basically, you don't want everything to be red. You want only this dangerous to be red. Okay? How do we make this dangerous to be red? Only it to be red. So that means we have to now introduce span so that you can easily style only this particular content in the span. Okay? So I have to just copy what I have here or just cut it. All right, then move down to here, then paste it here, save it, then refresh this. So you can now see, do not touch this, is dangerous. Now you can now use the power of span to actually emphasize on how dangerous that particular thing is. Because normal, you understand that anything red means what? Means danger, you should run away. Okay? So you don't need to make all the text red. So you can just make a particular section, just style a particular section. And that is one of the inline elements. And it's called what? It's called span. So without me actually trying to add this style attribute, you will not really picture what span is going to do here. But still yet, over the time, you are going to see make use of span in many areas in your web application or your web page. Okay, so is there any question concerning this written attributes are used and span has an inline element? All right, okay. Okay, so we still move forward to the next one. So we have discussed what? We have discussed span. The another one is strong. We have used it before. I can still come here and just use strong within this touch because I want it to be what? To be bold. Okay, you use strong, paste it and save. So that means it's going to be what? It's going to be bold. So you can now say this touch is now bold. Okay, so this touch is now bold. So do not touch. This is what? Dangerous. Okay, so I use span to just picture this dangerous only, then strong for this particular word, this particular touch. And you can see that this thing did not start in new line. It did not start in new line because it's an inline element. It can still stay within what? Within that particular line. It's not going to shift it or break it. So it will stay within that particular word, that particular line. Okay, so that is another one which is strong. All the attributes we have used before, superscript, subscript, and thereabout, emphasis, all of them are what? Under inline. All the formatters, okay, are other words, are under inline. The another one we discuss about now. Okay, Saint. Hello, are you asking a question, Saint? Saint, can you hear me? Oh, I think his network is bad. Okay, when you can hear me, you can just speak, please. Okay, now we continue. The next one is an input. An input what? Input tag. You must have seen all these things in a form, in a website. You go there, you want to log in, you enter your username and password, or your email and password for you to log in a particular platform. So that is what you want to call input. And this input is not taking the whole space. It's just taking the amount of length it can take for its content. Now, how do we create an input? So I can just come here, password, inputs. Okay, this input is one of those that have self-closing closing tag. So I have to close it this way. Okay, because it doesn't need to have any content inside it. Okay, so if I save this now, then refresh this, see what happened here. So you have you have input where you can type something. So this is a way you can be able to create input. Okay, so if I remove this now, so I can still add an attribute. Okay, I think Sent dropped a question in the chat box. Can someone help me and read it, please? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. The question is, what's the main difference between strong tag and H1?
Okay. The difference between strong tag and H1, there are plenty. H1 is used for heading. All right. All the H series, they are used for heading. Just from the name, heading. So heading 1, heading 2 to heading 6. So the different level of heading or the different size of the heading all depends on the number we have there. So H1 is the highest and the biggest. It should not confuse you because this is thick. All right. Then you now say that it's almost the same thing with H1. All right. So they are different things. H1 automatically is thick on its own and it's very big. H2 is thick, big, but smaller than H1. And it goes from that way to H6, which is the smallest. Then we use strong as a formatter, which we discussed in the last class. So this strong is a formatter. So it's formatting the text, all right, or a particular paragraph. We either use strong or we use bold. So just want to format a particular section of our text. And that is where strong come into play. And the main plan we have there is just to do what? It's just to make it to be bold, bigger than every other text there. And we now use what? We now use strong or we use bold basically. So the two of them are totally different. Okay, and should not be confused. Do you understand this? All right. And also, strong is an inline element. You can't use H1 or H6 inside a P tag. It will not make sense. Okay. So if you want to make something to be bold, you just make use of strong or you make use of normal bold tag. Okay. So we continue from where we stopped. So you're able to add this input, but this input is awful. It doesn't make sense. Okay, because something is missing here. Most of the time, if you go to websites, imagine like if you want to enter your email. How do you know that this is enter your email or your username or even your password? You don't even know anyone. Okay, So that means there should be what we call an attribute. Not the same attribute to use here, which is what style. So this is a style attribute. So you can also use another attribute, which we call what placeholder. Okay, so you're just going to hold a text in the input till you start typing your own. So you call it what placeholder. So I can just type placeholder, then say enter email. Then I can now save. Then refresh this. So you can now see enter what email. So it's always going to be there till I start typing my own. So if I now click on it, start typing, now what? Now disappear. So that is the name, placeholder. Okay. And also most of the time you may have a particular input. The first one is for let me say text, and the next one is for password. You have seen something like that. Okay. Then you enter your email and your password. So when you're typing your password, you can't see the password you are typing. All right, but still, yet when you submit it, it's still going to reach to the back end and they're going to process it. So they have different type of inputs. There are many. We'll just touch on some of them, then later we'll now discuss on more. Now, this is for email. So I can still pass another input and say, okay, this is going to be for password. Okay, so placeholder, enter password, then save, refresh this. Now you can now see that we have this email and you have what? You have password here. Okay, and that is why I said that these are what are inline elements. Okay, because you can see that this is also starting what is starting where this one actually ends. Okay, because this one is not taking the whole width. Not only the whole width of the parents, but this p tag in particular as a whole, this p tag is a what? It's a block element. So it's taken from here to the end. But this one is just taking the amount of size it can take. So that is why it's called what? It's called an inline element. When I provided the second input, it just starts from where this one was stopped. Okay? It can't just come down and start from new line, because it's what is inline element and not block element. Only block elements can take the whole width of the parents. Right? So we have email and password. But there's something unique here. If I type something here, they are still the same thing. You're not seeing all those dots there. Reason being that you're not giving it a type. So I can just come here and give it another attribute, which is what? Type. Type of what? You can see different type you have here. You have button, you have radio, checkbox, and thereabout. We are going to explore on some of them. Okay. So our type is going to be what? Password. That I can now say. So if I refresh this, so I can enter password. I can now type something. So is now what? Is now all those circle. No one can see your password at this particular instance. Why this one is just not normal text. By default, an input is going to have type of what? Text. So if I come here and just click on type, just password text. Okay, so that is the default value. So it's always going to be what? Text as default. Why this one? They are giving it what? Password. Okay, so this is password as an input, and this actually is what? Is text. Now, this input is not doing anything much. It's just for us to demonstrate. Even if you click on a button to submit anything, it's not going to do anything because there is no JavaScript word yet. Okay, it's just a structure that we are giving out there. No JavaScript in it. So it's just basically normal input, nothing much. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, that's good. Then, even if you want to use input for a calendar, you can still do that. Okay, so you make use of inputs for our calendar. So I can just say type okay, date time, okay, or date picker. I've forgotten the one first. I think it should be dates. Let me just check. Okay, date time. Let's make use of date time and check. So I can just refresh this, then click on here. Let's click this. Okay, I think is dates. Let's check dates. All right, so you can see what you have here. So you have what? You have dates here. If I click on it, so you can now be able to choose from our calendar. All right. So basically, you can choose any one. So you have our dates here. Okay. So this is input I can use for what? You can use for calendar. So you can use input for many things that you have not discussed yet. Right. But the main thing is for you to understand this is actually what's existing. And over the time, you are going to learn other input type and how you can be able to do what? You can be able to use them in your code. Okay. So is there any question concerning inputs as a whole, based on the one we have just discussed now? If you have a question, I can just go.
Okay. So please, you said input is an inline element. So what's the in a situation that maybe we are applying for a job and there is an input like here for you to write the location and the length is long? Does it mean that they expand it, or is this just, I don't understand, because I've seen an input that the box is long, very long. I don't know if you understand my question.
Okay, I understand your question. Okay, very well. Okay, now some inputs are being influenced by what? By our style. Even though you have another one we call text area, okay, which I'm just about to talk about now. So you have another one which you call text area. Okay, so in this text area, it's not a self-closing tag. Okay, so I can just add a placeholder, say enter your description. Then I save. Then come here and refresh. So let me just expand this a little bit. So you can see what you have here. You have enter your description. Now, this text area, all right, and this normal input, even though they are all inline elements, but when we start applying CSS, okay, they can now see that all these things are going to be what? Are going to be influenced. You can even ask me a question, but you went to NestQuery to register or to log in your account. You clicked on login, all right, but this input is long. Good and fine, your first question, but another input is not following this one, just the same way, same thing we have here, that one input is following another input. Okay, so it does not make sense for us at Next College to place one input, another one will just be here. It does not make sense. So that is where CSS come into play. Okay, using our CSS, we'll be able to learn how to arrange all these things the way they are meant to what they are meant to be. Okay, so CSS is always in play in all those websites you are seeing that the input is long or is very big, the text area is very big and thereabouts. Okay, or the input is not flowing the same line. That means it's coming in a new line. Because normally by default, they are meant to what? They are meant to just be what in a single line till they reach the end. Then another one can now start with what? With a new line. Okay, so basically you make use of CSS to achieve all this functionality, either making it to be longer all right, or making it to making them to stack on top of each other. That is just the main thing there. Do you understand now? Okay, can you guys hear me? All right, okay. So I hope Chisomi, you understood what I said, right? Okay, that's fine. Says, why are you crying? Okay, so let's
The
move.
network kicked me out.
I'm sorry about that. We are in Nigeria, most of us, and always facing that kind of issue sometimes. Okay, but the video will be there actually to be out there this night. All right, okay. Then the next one we are going to discuss now is let's discuss on image. Okay. You must have seen some websites, images everywhere, video is everywhere, everything is beautiful. Then how can you also add image in your own website? So based on everything you have learned so far, so it's going to be easier for us to add an image. Okay. Now, if you want to add image in your website, you can either add the file locally. Okay, that is, you add a file in the same level with your HTML file. Or the method should just be in your HTML file, the place it can easily access it. Or sometimes you just have a URL. You know, we have some URL, some image. If you have that URL, you can be able to download the image. Okay, it happens also. So how can we be able to render an image in our browser? We have a tag that is meant for that, and an attribute that we can use to point where that image is actually existing. Okay, what is the tag? The tag is just image tag. Let me just remove all these things we have here to avoid confusion. Yeah, I think this is okay. Now, for us to create an image tag, you just make use of img, which means image. And this is a self-closing closing tag, just like our input. They are self-closing tag. So once you pass this image, then you have to point where this image is actually existing. Because at this particular time, HTML doesn't know anything about your image. It must provide where this image is actually existing. Okay, and we're also going to provide a text that is going to show if this image is not good or is corrupted. You have seen in some people's profile, you see image that is broken, but they are going to write something, maybe write the person's name there, or tell you, okay, this image is for this, just for you to describe what the image is talking about, in case if it's corrupted. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to copy an image that is existing in my computer, then paste it in our file, so I can be able to do access it. All right. Now, you guys can still remember that I created a folder when we started this particular class, and the folder is let's call it 2026. Okay, I've been working in this UNN since. Okay, when I was using it as an example to teach you guys about how you can create multiple folder. So I'm working in this UNN, you can just go ahead and still continue this UNN. What I'm going to do, I'm going to look for an image in my computer. Okay, so I can just open this. All right, so let me look for an image here. Okay, so I have Next College here as my logo. So I'm just going to copy it. Copy the image. Okay, copy it. Then I'm going to minimize this. then double click on my UNN. Good. Then I'm just going to do Control V so I can paste the image here. Good. So I'm able to what? Paste the image, and this is still going to appear in the same level with what? With my index.html. Now you can also see this is why we discuss about file what extension. What makes something to be HTML, PNG, and thereabout, or PDF. Now, when you are looking at this, you can see index, you can see logo. This index and logo now, you can't really know whether it's HTML or whether it's PNG till you come to this file type. You can see HTML, okay? And this one is PNG what? PNG file. So that is how computer really understand whether this is an image, whether this is a PDF, whether it's a doc. So you must always have what? An extension, or whether it's a video. So you must always have what? An extension to back it what? To back it up. Okay? That means I can just what? I can just close this for a meantime. Then go back to my VS Code. So once I come back to my VS Code and I drag this thing open, so you can see I have what? Logo.png. So anything I'm doing in my folder there is also what? Appearing here. Because this VS Code is just using that my what? That my folder. So automatically we have what? Logo.png here. So is there any question concerning how I'm able to add my image and how it's able to appear here? But this is meant to be a basic copy and paste when it comes to what? Computer. All right. Okay, so I can just what? Open up our browser again. Now we're able to what? To drag and drop our image here, or we copied our image here, because we want to display this particular image in what? In our browser. Okay, HTML is going to help us to display the image in our browser. Then we have to point to where this image is actually existing. Okay, now everything is existing within what? Within the same line or the same what? Folder. The time is going to come when you are going to learn more about folder navigation. When we talk about JavaScript, you are going to learn those ones, maybe in CSS or in JavaScript. And for the meantime, we are keeping everything very, very simple. All right. So we have our logo.png here. How do we now render this particular image in our what? In our browser here? How can we do that? Okay. So what we are going to do, we have an attribute called SRC, which means source. So I pass SRC, okay, click on enter. So this SRC is telling me where is the image you want to render in the web. Okay, and I'm going to tell it, oh, see the image here. The image is logo.png. Okay, so I'm telling this HTML, he asked me a question, where is the source? Now I'm telling him, okay, that the source is actually this logo we have here, which is logo.png. Don't make a mistake when you are writing .png. Write .jpg. It's going to what? It's going to fail. It's not going to work. So logo.png. So in your own, it may be another name .jpeg or .png. Anyone you are using what to practice. Okay. Then after that, you can write an alt, which is optional, and I'll say logo. Then I can now save this. Then refresh this. Good. You can see that we have an image here. Now it's not beautiful. Yes, it's not beautiful. Good and fine. Because this image also is a block element. So it's starting from the left to the right. It's trying to occupy the whole width of the parent or the whole screen. Okay, that is image for you. This same image, you're going to learn how you can be able to use our CSS to control it. At this particular time, just know that we're able to do what? To render an image in our browser. And if it's broken, it's going to show something else. Maybe that's our logo. Let me say if I come back here and remove this logo to log L. Okay, then refresh this. So you can see that it's broken, but it's showing that our alt sign, our alt is what is logo. That is what we use there as our alt. So if the image is corrupted or is not working, or there is something that actually happened, we want to show a text, which is what that this actually is someone's logo. That means if like we are visiting let's call it .dev and something happened to our website, this is our logo, automatically it should be broken. But you're going to see that this is supposed to be what logo and not another thing. So this is going to help you to know something happened, but this is talking about what? About logo. The logo is supposed to be here, about this logo is supposed to be in this particular area of the website. So this is how we can be able to do what? To render an image in a web page. The image is not fine yet, it's not beautiful, but our main target at this particular stage is for us to just show it in the web. Very, very simple. Okay, so is there any question concerning how we can render an image in the web? Any question at all? All right, okay, can you guys see me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. So I can just quickly remove this image so you can move to the next one. So the next one we have is video, okay, which is basically going to be probably the last one we discussed about our block elements. So videos, the same thing with our image. Okay, there is no much difference between video and image. Okay, the same thing with what? With our image. How can we use video here? So we have to actually add a video in our folder so that it can be easier for us. The same thing we did for our image. Okay, so I just open up this. Okay, then look for a video. Okay, the video I uploaded last. Okay, I'm just going to copy it. All right. Then go back to this URL. Okay, then I can just paste it. Good. So you can see introduction to HTML. So the date it was created and the file extension type is NP what? NP4. This one is PNG. This one is HTML. That is different what extensions. Okay, then I can just what? Close this. Then open up my VS Code. If I expand this, I'm going to see what? Introduction to what? To HTML.png. Just by doing that, you can start working with this. Okay, so I can just open up back my browser. Okay. So I can now close this back. How do we render a video? Almost the same thing we say with our image, but it's just a little bit different. Okay, so I'm just going to pass the tag, which is what? Our video tag. Okay, so this is not going to be self-closing because it needs some things inside it. So in this our video tag, we are going to have some attributes and some content inside it. Okay, so the first thing we are going to have here is the source. Okay, where is this video located at? So I'm going to pass what? Source. Okay, and this source is going to be what? It's going to be self-closing what? Tag. Okay, so source. So within this particular source, we see have that SRC that we have in our image. So SRC. Okay, so where is it located? So it's located what? In introduction.html. So I just pass introduction.html. Good. All right. And that is just it. Then the next one, which is very, very important, is for us to pass what? Our type. So this our type is very, very important. So you cannot see the extension we have here. We have MP4 as our extension. Okay. And this is meant to be what? It's meant to be a video. So this is going to be video, okay, video slash what? MP4. Okay. Then I can now what? I can now save this. Okay. So you have video as a tag, then you have some content inside it, which is what we have as source. This is the first word, the first source. And this is pointing to our introduction to HTML.mp4. All right. The same thing, our type here is video slash what? MP4. Now, this can contain multiple what? Multiple source. So I can still come here and pass what? Another source. Okay. And in this aspect now, I can say SRC is going to be introduction. Okay. But I'm going to change this extension to another thing called OGG. Okay, I'm going to explain this. Then I can come here and say type is equals to video slash OGG. Now, the reason why they have different type of source for a video is because initially when HTML came into existence, okay, there are some browsers that can actually support some video extension. Some can support MP4, some can support OGG, some can support MOVD and thereabout. Okay, but some browser cannot support MP4. So if they can support MP4, they should fall back to the one they can support. But now in this our modern generation, this is not a problem again because all the browser can support almost all video extension. So you don't need to stress yourself to create different video type for different browser. Before, let me say Opera Mini may be supporting OGG and Chrome will be supporting MP4. So that means if someone is actually visiting your site, making use of Opera Mini, and you don't have OGG, that means the video is going to break, it's not going to work. Okay, then how do we now solve the problem? So that is when we now have multiple sources. So if someone is using my website in Chrome, I can render this MP4. If someone is using my website in Opera Mini, no problem, it's not going to break. Then Opera Mini can take what? Can take this for OGG. Then if at any particular point that this browser this person is using is one kind of primitive browser that cannot even hold any image that I provided, okay? So I'm just going to return anything saying this is supposed to be a video or anything at all to give the person information that this is actually supposed to be a video. I can even tell the person use Chrome, okay? Use Chrome to view the video if you want to view it. Use what? Use Chrome. Then if I come here and refresh, good and fine. So we have what? We have video. We have video here, but it's almost like our image. But when you are making use of video, there is something very, very important you need to understand. You have to make use of an attribute for you to achieve what? Achieve anything you are doing in video. So, and the attribute is for us to use what? Width and height. You should give it a width and a height. You should be able to control it because now it doesn't even make sense at all. Since it's a block element, it's trying to carry all the whole width of the parents. So we need to what? Need to give it the width it should carry and the height it should carry. That means I can just minimize this, then come to this my video tag, all right? Then give it a width. So I can just give it a width of, let me say 300, okay? Then a height of 300 also. Now you may be confused. I may be asking, what is even 300? Is 300 inches or 300 pesos or 300 cm? Okay, that is the question I may be asking now. So 300 means 300 what? Pesos or px. You are going to learn this very, very well in your CSS class. Okay, and this means the smallest dot on a screen is called px or pixel. The smallest dot on the screen is called pixel. So now I want 300 of those kind of dots for us to now say that this is the width of our video, and this is the height of our video. So the smallest dots you can see in a screen is a pixel. Can you guys hear me? All right, that's good. Then I can just quickly refresh this. Good. You can see that our video is now coming up very well. But it's still not a video, it's just looking like a picture. I can't even click anything. Nothing is working, right? Nothing is working. Does not make sense. How do we handle this? Then there's what we call control, an attribute we call what? Control. That means we want to now allow all the normal control that the video is meant to have. Then I just pass what the attributes called controls. Okay, then I can now save this, then refresh. Then automatically you can now see everything that we need to play this particular video. So I can just click on play. So everything will start playing. Everything you need, even if you want to mute it, if you want to expand it, all right, it will still expand. Everything is now what? Functional, the way it's meant to be. If you want to download, you can also download it and play back. Okay, so this is what the control for our video and our basic laying down of video. So you're able to know how we can present our image, even though the image was very, very large. I'm not talking about the width and the height. There is no problem. All this will be discussed in future class. Then we also discussed about video. So that means now you can easily, if you practice the last class, you can easily know about text. Then this class now, you know about image, block element, inline element, video, and even you learned about input, different type of input that we have. Okay, then we see move forward. Let's discuss on one last thing, which we call anchor tag. So you must have seen in some websites where you click on a particular link and you'll be taken to another web page. Okay, and that is what's called anchor link. And this anchor link is an inline element, not a block element. Now, how do we create that? So if I come under this video, I can just create a paragraph. I can say visit google.com now. Or let's just say visit Google now. Okay. Now, if I save this and refresh this, so you can see just have visit Google now, but it's not doing anything. It's just a normal text. I can't visit Google by just clicking anywhere here. I can't even click anything. All right. Then how do we actually turn this particular Google to something clickable? So once you click on it, you'll be taken to the Google website. How can we be able to achieve this? So this is where we talk about an inline element called anchor tag. Very, very simple. It's not confusing. So I can just come here, remove this. Do the same thing we did for strong. Just pass A. So A means anchor. And that is our anchor element. So if I refresh this now, okay, nothing is happening yet. Because it needs what you call href. So hypertext this is called hypertext anchor. You can see it here. So it needs href, where the anchor is meant to take you to. Okay, where is it taking you to? So I can just pass href. So I want to go to http www google.com. All right, then I can now save this, then refresh this. So once I refresh this now, you can now see that we have something different here. Okay, then if I click on it, so I'll be taken to what? To Google. So this is what you call what you call anchor tag. And this just helps us to what? To navigate from one site to another what? To another site, basically. Okay, so that is it for our today's class. So is there any question concerning everything we have learned today? The video tag, the image, inline element, block element, or formatters and thereabouts. Is there any question so far concerning the class? Okay, so that means everything is well understood. Okay, Saint.
Yeah, mine is not really a question. Just some of these things you said, I've tried it before, and the only issue or difficulty I had was introducing an image that I didn't try for video. So I couldn't introduce image. But from what you taught me now, I will try to bring in an image and I'll get back to you. Thank you.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. I'll be expecting your testimony in the next class that is working. Okay, any
Yeah,
other
okay.
question? All right. All right, okay. So if there is no other question, I believe that once we drop this video, please, you guys should do your best and go through it. Okay, Chisom, do you have any question?
No.
Okay, all right. So once we drop the video, please, you guys should make sure you go through it and always prepare yourself for the next class. You can see how we are moving, and you may think that you are not learning much. But just see how it's going to be in 1 week. Talk more of 1 month. So the only thing I need you to do is just show up. Nothing, just show up. Just that 2 hours, show up and learn for 2 hours. Go back and practice. All right. Show up, learn for 2 hours, go back and also what? And also practice. Do this consistently for 1 month, and you'll be able to testify what have actually changed. All right. So I'll be expecting to see each and every one of you in the next class. Okay, have a good night rest.